Hey guys, Sergio and Paul here from Evans Drumheads. Today we're going to talk a little bit about drum tuning. So we have two SJC snare drums in front of us. These are 14 by 6.5 snare drums. They're pretty standard. And we've got two different heads. On the snare side we have a snare side 300, and on the batter side we have a coated G2. Very common snare drum heads. So what I've done here is I've isolated the snare wire from the drum, and I brought the tension down the snare wire, and I wedge a stick in between the wire and the counter root. So this way it frees up the sound of the wire when I'm tapping on the head all around the drum. So how I tune a snare drum head is basically start finger tight. Each of these tension rods, I've tightened them just by hand, and in a star pattern, I'll start from one position, give it a quarter turn, and then go directly across. Do the same thing. Then go back on the other side of the drum to the next tension rod, another quarter turn, directly across. Go back to the next tension rod, quarter turn, across. And do this all the way around the drum until I reach the point where I started, so that I know tension is being applied evenly across the surface of the entire drum head. And here we're back to the first one. And I'll do this one more time around. Until I start to get some tone out of that bottom head. Okay. So let's see what this sounds like now. Give it a couple taps. And what I'm listening for is consistency. So I can hear a couple points that are a little bit lower and some that are a little bit higher. What I want to do is bring the ones that are lower up to the point to the ones that are higher. So this will sound a little low to me versus this one, so I'll give it a slight crank. A little bit more. Now you can hear the drum really coming up. It's pretty low. So there's much more consistency around the head now. Now, pitch is totally subjective. If you want a drum that's going to be bright and responsive, you'll tune this drum head up high. If you want a drum that's going to be low and kind of washy or wet kind of a sound, then you keep it somewhat low, pretty much where the tension we have it now. So now that I've got a consistent tension, I can remove this stick, bring the snare wires back down on the head, add a little bit of tension to the wires, and I should have a bottom head with the snare drums, with the snare wire setup that will be responsive and enough to get you started so that you can start tuning your top head. So Paul now is going to talk a little bit about batter head tuning.
Cool. So when we get to the batter head, we're going to use the same principles that Sergio just talked about. Finger tightening each lug, and then tuning with the key in a star pattern. So just get this nice and finger tight. Alright, that feels pretty good. So now I'll start using the key. And again, start with just a quarter turn on each lug, and then go across the drum. Alright, so I've been around the drum once. I'm just going to see where the pitch is at. Pretty low, I can tell already, so we'll go around once more. Alright, let's see where it's at now. It's starting to get there. So I find when I'm tuning a batter head, it really helps to apply a gentle pressure at the center of the head so that you can isolate the pitches at each tension point. So that one's a little bit lower, and we'll just keep going around until everything is even. pretty in tune. Like Sergio said, the pitch is really subjective. Totally depends on what sound you're going for. But these fundamentals of applying tension equally across the drum will help you get started. So once you've got equal tension across each lug, you can check how the actual pitch of the drum sounds. Not too bad.
Sounds good, Paul. Thanks, guys.